but they hid him out in Staten Island of all places, and it was under the stewardship of the Gambino brothers, which, as you know, was a powerhouse. So it blows my mind. I cover the business end of the mob, and so if this was a business, they outsourced a very important piece of the business to like a third-party vendor who should not be used.
Well, it was Luigi's Luigi's downfall, but it was also Sindona's downfall as well, because when he sits down with Luigi and he talks about him, tells him what he wants, what he wants him to do, he tells him, you get $100,000 for the prosecutor and kill him. Yeah. And when you kill him, I want you to plant drugs in his pocket so that it won't come back to me. Yeah. And then you go to Italy, $100,000 to kill the prosecutor / judge in Italy. Luigi says to me, Mike, he says, I knew that if I kill a prosecutor in the United States, I'm done. Yeah. My life is over. So he tells Sindona no, turns him down, says, I'm not doing it. Wow. Sindona tried to get someone else. He never was successful in doing this, and ultimately gets convicted in New York, gets convicted in Italy, does time in Italy, and he gets poisoned in Italy.
Yeah, that wasn't suicide. That espresso, the hot espresso that he drank, that wasn't suicide.
So Luigi now is feeling that he did in his mind the right thing, but he knows that it's not going to be thought of very well by the wise guys. So he knows, and he's also now stuck. He's got to make money. So his friends come up with this robbery scheme. There's a courier, a money courier, who picks up money every day, every week at the same location, and it's usually about $30,000 to $40,000. A
lot of money back then.
It's in Queens.
Yeah.
So they stake out the guy, and here he is, walking out of wherever he walked out of with the bag in his hand. Luigi says to me, except Mike, it was not a man. It's a lady.
Oh.
He says, they want me to rob a lady. I don't do that. I can't do that. Nobody in Sicily will rob a lady. Yeah. But I'm stuck. I need the money. Yeah. So he takes the money from her. And shortly thereafter, the cops, he drives back home to where this guy lived, the guy who was in charge of setting up this whole thing. And the police must have followed because they swarm in, arrest Luigi, arrest the other guys, and Luigi now is being held in the Queens County Jail on $500 bail. Okay, he can't make it, Tom. He can't make the bail. So you know what the guy does, and I still can't believe that he did this. He calls Sindona, and he says to Sindona, "You got to get me out." He says, "I can't go on trial. I can't be on the stand, and it's good for you if you get me out."
Yeah.
So Sindona basically tells him, essentially, no, doesn't give him the money. He goes, Luigi, and so that he says to me, that tells me that I'm marked. I'm going to die if I don't get out of jail. He says, I know that was going to happen. He ultimately goes to his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law puts up the 500. He gets out, goes home, and calls Sindona again and says to Sindona, you turned me down once. I have a lot to say. I want $30,000. I'm going to get out of the country. You'll never see me again. Yeah. Sindona tells him no. You know what he does? Walks into the 9th precinct in Manhattan to the desk, and he says to the desk officer, I want to talk to the FBI. And that's how he turns himself in. And the FBI picks him up. They hold him they debrief him totally.
Yeah.
They find out about the Brooklyn murder, the New Corners, and they knew it's open. He told them everything else about Sindona and all of the other stuff. Now they have, what are we going to do with this guy? We got everything out of him. Yeah. So they bring him to Brooklyn to the cops. And the detectives don't know what to do with him. So what do? They march him into the DA's office, and they say, he's an informant. He's got an open homicide. Here he is. I'm working that day. I'm in the Homicide Bureau. I was the senior trial assistant. My boss calls me into his office, and he says, these 2 detectives brought in this Italian guy. He's blah, blah, blah. He says, you're Italian. He's Italian. He's yours. That's how I got Luigi Ronsisvalle. And you know how the relationship that we developed was amazing. To tell you the truth. And so he brings him into my office. They bring him actually, I had him in a conference room. And I look at him and I say to myself, this guy is a hitman. He's like 5'6". He's as wide. Yeah, there he is. And I say, how is this guy a hitman? Because my whole idea of a hitman was somebody sophisticated, etc. So he sits down and I say to him, you hungry? He goes, yes. He said he's in the Brooklyn House of Detention now.
Yeah.
He says they just only murdered. That's what I get, which is crap, So I said, okay, what do you want? He says, I want a veal cutlet Parmesan Hero and a bottle of beer. Tom, I get it for him. Every time he comes in from then on until the time he ultimately pleads guilty and goes away, he had the veal Parmesan and the beer, and he tells me everything.
Wow.
Actually, I shouldn't say that. He told me everything except he held something back. And I always knew that he was holding something back. I always felt that. But I had what I needed. I had everything that I needed. I had turned him over actually to our squad, and they were doing an investigation into the bananas on Knickerbocker Avenue. He helped them.
Yeah.
And Carmine Galante gets killed. Knickerbocker Avenue. He gives them the information that he knows about. He says, I'm in jail. I don't know